Hello, and thank you for clicking on to the sixth video episode in our Parent Leadership series entitled College Knowledge Awareness. My name is Ryan Gatmonton. I'm a school counselor here at West Aurora High School in the Tradition House, and with me is Sue Fowler, who is our College and Career Readiness Coordinator. Both of us make up the College, Career, and Life Readiness team. And we're excited to have this new video, as we're going to highlight a unique group of students who are also alums, like the last series. And so we hope that you would be able to engage in this and find information. But Sue, can you tee us up to what we're going to see tonight?
Absolutely. Today we're super excited to hear, as Mr. Gabutton said, from our very own West High alum, and Julie Carballo from North Central College. Julie is the director of First Generation Initiatives and Veteran Military Affiliated Student Services. So this panel today, they're going to be sharing their insights as first generation college students, in particular on successful students ask for help.
That's great, Sue. And I'm really excited because I myself had been a first generation student. And I think the unique life circumstances that surround being a first generation student, there's a lot of different needs that we have. So wouldn't you agree, Sue, that, I think we need to have more and more people invested in our community of students who are going to college for the first time. And I have to say, Sue, in your unique position, you get to see that all the time. Am I correct?
Absolutely, all the time. And what I really love is how our West High students are giving back, and sharing their insights to help fellow students.
So with no further ado, let's check out how our students who are now in college at North Central are experiencing their first time in college as first generation students.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julie Carballo, and I am the Director of First Generation Initiatives at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. And I am here with some North Central College students who are first generation college students, and they all happen to be graduates of West Aurora High School as well. So a first generation college student is defined as one whose parents have not completed a four-year college degree. And so 40% of students at North Central College are first gen, and nationwide 1/3 of all college students are first gen. We definitely view it as a point of pride and an asset, and we are here to hear from the wisdom and experiences of these first generation college students who are very successfully navigating college. So I'm going to first start with introductions, and I will ask you just to introduce yourself, first and last name, what year you graduated from West, because we already can tell on the screen what year you're graduating from North Central. So what year you graduated from West and your major. So name, graduation year from West, and major. We'll start with you, Alexia.
Hey guys, my name is Alexia Patino. I was supposed to graduate in 2018, but I studied abroad for a year, so I graduated in 2019 from West Aurora. My major is Japanese and Global Studies.
Thank you very much. And Francisco.
Hello, everyone. My name is Francisco Martinez. I graduated from West Aurora in 2016, and my major is mechanical engineering.
Thank you very much. And Christian.
Hello, my name is Christian Burciaga. I graduated in the year 2017, and my major is psychology.
Thank you. Steph.
Hello, my name is Estefania Garcia. I am majoring in chemistry, and I graduated from West in 2017.
Thank you. And Ureli.
My name is Ureli Reyes. I graduated from West in 2017, and my major is psychology and neuroscience.
Thank you very much. And Melanie.
Hi, my name is Melanie Garcia. I'm majoring in biochemistry with a minor in math, and I graduated from West in 2017.
And she's a good problem solver over there, figuring out how to make this work. So today's topic, workshop topic, is successful college students ask for help. And I think all the panelists will agree that that is definitely a sign of somebody wanting to be a successful college student, and a very necessary practice and habit to get into. So I'm going to ask our panelists to talk a little bit about how they've asked for help and how that's benefited their experience. So it's for our high school students on the call, knowing when and how to ask for help can make navigating college much easier and save you a lot of time and stress. And you'll avoid many mistakes along the way. So this skill, and it is a skill of asking for help when you need it, is something that you can develop while you're in high school. So right now, high school students, you spend, if we weren't in a pandemic, 35 hours a week in the high school building. When you get to college, you'll only be spending 15 hours a week in classes. And the rest of the time you will need to manage on your own to get your studying and such done. So high school is a little more supervised, and the bell rings and tells you where to go and what class to think about. And college is a little bit more self-directed. So I'm going to ask our panelists to share one specific example of how you need to be more self-directed in college than you were when you were in high school. We're going to start with Melanie and then go to Alexia.
So I said ultimately, like, you're the one that decides if you're going to go to class or not. And that's something that's very different in high school. So you have to be more, self-motivated, because unlike high school where you get in trouble for skipping class, the only person that you'll be hurting by not going to class now is yourself. Another really important thing is just to keep track of your time. In high school, it seems like you have 7 hours of straight classes, but in college, you're going to have anywhere from 1 to 4 hours of class a day. So it feels like you have more free time, and you do, but you just have to learn to budget that time. So I would suggest keeping a planner, having, all of your assignments written down so that you have enough time to get stuff done. Of course, you also want to plan time to do fun stuff, because that's what the college experience is all about. And you'll definitely have time to have fun, but it's just really, really important to budget your time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Alexia and then Francisco.
Yeah, on top of what Melanie said, you have to rely on your syllabus a lot, because your teachers, well, your professors now in college, they're not going to be telling you what to do the next day. You will have to read and go to your schedule and make sure that you're on top of your assignments and everything, because they're not going to ask you, they're not going to tell you what to do tomorrow. They're going to be like, okay, so you know what you're turning in your assignment, you know the due date, you do it.
That's so, yes, you'll get fewer reminders, and you won't see your professors every day. And Alexia mentioned the syllabus, which is something that you get on the first day of class for this semester that tells you every assignment, every reading, every paper, everything for the whole semester of what is due in a class. And you are expected to look at that on your own between classes. And Francisco, same question, one specific example of how you need to be more self-directed. And after you, we'll go to Christian.
To add on top of both Melanie and Alexia said, yeah, keep track of your assignments. They're going to start piling up pretty fast. With all that extra free time, you're spending it somewhere else. You need to start budgeting it correctly. Definitely going to be wanting to stay prepared and keeping track of your assignments, your projects. Make sure if you have questions to be checking in with your professors. More likely than not, they're just going to say it once. So if you need something repeated, reach out. Don't be afraid about that.
Thank you very much. Great advice. And Christian.
Yeah, time is a common theme here. So time is a valuable resource. You have to make sure that you keep things on track, because things can build up pretty quick. Most likely you're going to have questions on assignments. Before you ask a professor, I highly recommend you look at a syllabus, because some professors do get kind of annoyed when something is clear on the syllabus, and if you ask them, they're just going to say, look at the syllabus. So do that, and if it's not there, then you go ahead and ask for either clarification or other questions. And so just make sure you do everything on time, because as much as you need to respect their time, they also have time that you need to respect as well. And just to respect everybody's time and priorities, you do that.
Great advice. So yes, and I'm sure that Mrs. Fowler would like the same thing. When information goes out, always read the information that you get first and then figure out what your questions are. So thank you, panelists. Our next topic we're going to talk about is sometimes students who are struggling are embarrassed because they feel like they're the only ones that probably have this question or don't understand about something, and that's complete nonsense. And as the panelists already said, if you wait for a professor isn't going to reach out to you and say, do you understand everything? Are you clear on all of this? Maybe like your high school teacher does. So you need to ask, you need to reach out for help when you need it. And people can't read your mind. I always tell students, but there's many people that can help you at any college or university you go to, but no one can read your mind. So you have to ask your questions and let them know what your struggle is. So our next question is, please share one struggle you experienced during your first year of college, who you asked for help, and how that helped you work through the struggle. And we're going to start with Estefania and go to Francisco.
So for me, I found it really hard to figure out how I'm going to schedule myself and my classes and how what to do, how to move forward. And I felt like my advisor, my academic advisor wasn't the best for me and my goals. So I was kind of lost, and eventually I was able to connect with my professors, and they helped me. And I asked them for advice, and they helped me as a mentor, schedule out my time and my classes. And from there on out, every year I went to them, and they would look at my schedule, and they would to say oh yeah, this is good, this is where you're on track for your where you want to what you want to do and where you want to be.
Great advice. Thank you. Francisco, and then Christian.
For my first year, I think I was struggling with managing time as well. I think I was juggling at the time for full-time student status and then a full-time job. So I had to find ways to study, and it was really hard. And luckily for me, there was tutoring centers available with extended hours where I could meet with them just so I could get some help with how to study for something, because class to class, it's different study techniques. Sometimes there's visual. There's ways of writing it differently. So I know that helped me pass through my first year.
Great. So they reached out to the tutoring center. Thank you. And then Christian, one struggle you experienced and who you asked for help and how that helped.
Yeah, mine was time management as well. I reached out to my calculus professor at the time, which was Professor Marco. And professors are really your most valuable resource, because not only do they help you, they also connect you to other professors and tutoring programs, which is what he did. Because I was struggling in my other classes as well, and I just didn't know how to keep up or how to improve my grades. And it was him that introduced me to other chemistry professors, that because I had chemistry courses as well, and then they offered me other tutoring sessions that I could attend, and that's how I got through my first year.
So that's great, great advice, all of you. And the connection to faculty, it's not just getting your one question answered. It is, like Christian just said, a connection to information, opportunities, resources, and other people on campus. So it's really important that you make the time to connect with your faculty wherever you decide to go to college. The next question, panelists, please share a time when you've approached a professor for help. How and when did you approach them? And how did you feel doing that? And was it helpful to you? So we'll start with Melanie and then go to Christian.
Yeah, so for me, the first time I approached one of my professors for help was in my first year general chemistry class. And firstly, I just want to say, you don't have to be struggling to get help. In fact, you don't want to wait for it to get that far. So anytime you have a question, any small question, just, go ahead and ask. And of course, I was nervous the first time I was going to, ask a question. It's a little bit intimidating. But I was going to ask about a question about my lab report, and I actually went with my lab partner. And so that made it a little bit less daunting. So if you're a little afraid to go and talk to them for the first time, you can always go with somebody else. But the experience was really helpful in that it made it much easier the next time I needed to ask for help, to be able to just pop in and ask my question, as well as that I started to develop a relationship with my professor. So
great advice. Thank you. We'll go to Christian and then Ureli.
Yeah, like Melanie said, it could be really helpful to have a partner, because it could be really intimidating the first time. I remember my first time, I was super nervous and my heart was beating and everything. And it's It is difficult the first time, but the point is to establish a relationship. You don't even have to have a question. Even a little point of conversation could be something where you can build that relationship over time. And then they could help you with other stuff that you need, such as other interests that you have. You might have a specific interest that they might take in mind, and if they have a specific program that they're working on, they might invite you. And because they know you, they're more familiar with you. And I mean, just talk to them. It could literally be anything, and it'll just add to your relationship with them.
Great advice. Thank you. And we'll go to Ureli and then Stefania.
Yeah, one of the first times I asked for help was actually my freshman year, and it was towards more like our spring term. But I was having trouble in my statistics class, and I was like terrified of going to the professor and asking for help. But I just like he had set up also one-on-one meetings prior for us like just to get to know each other. So I had already spoken to him for like briefly like 15 minutes before that. So that actually kind of eased a little bit of my nerves going in since we had already had a conversation prior. So I had then just walked into one of his office hours and I really was just like, I am not really understanding the material. I need a little bit more help if you can explain. And he was more than welcoming. And after that, anytime that I needed a little bit more explanation outside of class, I could just go in and he would try and explain it a little bit further so that I could understand better.
Thank you very much. And we will go to Stefania and then Alexia.
Yeah, so my first year, I was like really struggling with like building that courage to go in and ask for help. I thought I was in the mindset that it's fine, like I don't need their help. It'll be fine. I'll manage. But it did get to be too much and I was too lost. And my English professor actually forced us to have like one-on-one meetings with her. And so I spoke with her and it was more than just the class, like talking about the class. She asked me about my other classes and I told her how I was struggling. And she told me that professors, they love it when students stop by and like they're willing to help and they're more like either if it's like for a question or just to say hi, it's fine, like they don't mind. And that kind of gave me some like courage and like it helped me build up to it. And it was really really scary, but I eventually did talk to my professors and I have grown such a close connection with all of them that if it hadn't been for like that push, I wouldn't be on like such a personal level with them.
That's great. Thank you so much. And Alexia.
For me, despite being like a first generation student, I'm also a transfer student. So when I transferred to North Central, I was like a little lost, I guess. I was like, oh my God, like, because my transfer was so different that I never seen something like that. So I was like, okay. And then I went to talk to my advisor and she was like, oh, go talk to this professor. And she sent me to the Japanese professor right away. She was like, oh, you have to go to take a test with her. And I took an exam and then she was like, I don't know what to do with you because like you speak it, but I need you to like learn more and stuff like that. So my Japanese professor and I became very close and she's always helping me with everything. She helps me with like my studying abroad. She helps me with every like single Japanese question I have and just she's been helping me since the beginning.
And that's very common too, that they'll answer more than just your question. It'll be like a holistic response because professors like getting to know you on a personal level. So thank you, panelists. So that was about asking for help from a professor, generally about academics. And one other point I want to make, and somebody said, I think Christian said, you don't have to have a specific question. You can just go in for conversation. Or if you're just feeling, I think like Stefania said, where you're just feeling a little bit lost, it is always okay to go in and say, I don't really have a specific question to ask you, but I'm feeling very overwhelmed with this class or with something going on. And they'll guide the conversation so that you don't need to have a really profound question to ask. Our next topic related is asking for help is not limited to academic issues. So many students and many adults struggle with personal issues at different times. We all do, lots of them this year related to the pandemic. So other things going on in our lives. So it might be a time management struggle, a difficult family situation, anxiety, depression, something like that. So Alexia is the only one responding to this question of just, can you share an example of a non-academic struggle you experienced during your first year of college and how you asked for help?
Yeah, so for me, something was time management because I was working a lot and I was just like, oh, I need to work because I need money, without like actually caring a lot about my education and how it was gonna impact my future, like in my education system. So I was like, oh, I was just working and 40 hours, 40 hours, 40 hours. And then I talked again to my professor, my Japanese professor, and she was like, no, you have to stop working that much, because if you don't stop working and then you don't find like time for your studies, then you're not gonna succeed. And thanks to that, I just work less now and I just focus more on my career.
So yeah, that's a common, very common struggle. And you've heard everybody talk about the time management piece. So it's, you want to be making enough so you're taking on less debt, but your goal is being a successful college student. So we'll often remind the students to be able to tell their employer, my goal is to be a successful college student, so I can't work that extra shift for you or something like that. Okay, so our next topic is there's something called imposter syndrome that's experienced by many first-generation college students. Imposter syndrome is the feeling that you don't belong or you aren't as smart as everybody else. And sometimes the fear of that, from that, keeps you from asking for help, and that it's really important to be able to name it. I love when I hear students say I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, because that's the first step, is knowing like, I do belong here, but I'm feeling a little bit like maybe I don't. So I'm going to ask the panelists to please share a time when you've experienced imposter syndrome in college and how you worked through it, or how you're currently working through it. And we're going to start with Francisco and then go to Estefania.
I think I've experienced imposter syndrome when I first arrived at North Central. I transferred in from a community college, which was very diverse. And then prior to that, coming from West, very diverse again. And then finally, when I landed in North Central, I'm like, wow, most of my classmates were predominantly like white. So I felt a little bit alone there. I know after the first week, we started talking about clubs in class. And I know one of the clubs that stuck out to me was SHIP, which is the Society of Hispanic Professionals and Engineers. So that's kind of where I found a bond. I found like this group of people that spoke the language. We had the same goals, same background and struggles. So I felt more attached to North Central, and I'm still part of that club, and we help each other, with homework and everything.
Great, thank you very much. And we'll go to Estefania and then Ureli.
Yeah, very similar. I had a very similar like culture shock as well. And it was like, especially like in the STEM field, it is very like, predominantly white, and it felt like I felt like an imposter. I felt like I didn't belong here. And after like slowly, like I like slowly warmed up to my classmates, and I slowly warmed up to like my professors and whatnot. And it it was still like a little like, I don't know if I should be here, but my friends, like who are also like a bunch of us are first gen, we kind of, who are also in STEM, we kind of banded together, and like we like just connected through Cardinal First, and we made study groups, and we created an environment where we felt like we belonged.
Thank you. That's great. And North Central is 16% of our students are Hispanic right now at North Central College. But you brought up a point that I want to look up, Estefania, as to the breakdown by major. Would be interesting to see what the breakdown of that major is. And now we're going to go to Ureli and then to Melanie.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always like going on and off between imposter syndrome, and my most recent one was actually today. I had to present at a national conference, and this was my first time ever presenting at a conference. So it was definitely a lot, like, especially looking at all the other presenters and posters, it was a lot of like very like science heavy things where I was like studying children. So I felt like I was like, I do not belong here. And what I did was actually I texted one of my friends who is also first gen, and we can like talk about things like this. So I was just like, hey, like I am like terrified. I do not feel like I belong in this conference. And she just kind of like reminded me like, hey, you got accepted to present at that conference. Like you obviously belong there. Like you did a great job with your research. Like you're going to do great. And that helped a lot. So I think that just having someone that you can really talk to about it, and like they can kind of like calm your nerves down and like bring you back to reality, is really helpful.
I agree too. And to be able to recognize and to be able to tell yourself that, or have someone remind you, yes, you do belong here. And it is something that people, it's not just first gen students experience. There's research between, different groups of people and at different times, but it's good to know what that is and then to fight back against it. And now we're going to Melanie on imposter syndrome.
Yeah, so just like Ureli, some imposter syndrome is something I kind of go back and forth with. But the first time I ever really experienced imposter syndrome was my sophomore year of college. I had applied to a bunch of these outside research experience opportunities. And when I had finally gotten one, I was actually so shocked that I had actually gotten one that I didn't believe that I had. So I didn't tell anybody about it for a couple of weeks because I was just so afraid that maybe I read it wrong or maybe it just wasn't true. Maybe they had sent it to the wrong person. So that was kind of the first time I had ever really experienced that. But I think how I move past that and all of the other times that I have that feeling that I don't belong or that I didn't achieve something that I had, earned is just what everybody else has been saying, having that strong background. That strong group of people. And so the community that I have built here, whether that be my friends, professors, just they have really gotten me through and, helped me through those times when I have felt like that.
And every time you work through it, it'll empower you for the next time. And it's like, I just talked to someone who's applying for a vice president's position at a bank, and they said, I'm completely overwhelmed with imposter syndrome. So it's something that people manage, but it's good to know what it is. So thank you for that. The next question is about resources. So every college and university has resources available. They're included in the tuition that you pay, but college students need to decide to connect to them. So they need to say, like somebody's already mentioned, tutoring or talking to professors. So this question is about, at most colleges have a writing center, a speaking center, a tutoring center, academic support center, or disability services center, wellness center for counseling, career center. So what's one resource on campus that you utilize to be more successful? And the two panelists that are going to respond to this are Ureli and Alexia. Go ahead, Ureli.
Yeah, I utilized the Career Center and I started going to them, I think it was my sophomore year, because that's when I started realizing that there are so many options of things to do after graduation with a psychology degree, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I reached out to the Career Center and they helped me reach out to other faculty in the department from various areas so I can kind of get a feel for what different things I could do with my degree or what my options were. And it really helped me kind of develop more connections and really look at all of my other options that I had available.
Great advice. Thank you very much. And Alexia.
Yeah, for me, I reached out to the writing center mostly because English is my second language. I'm very comfortable with Spanish. I used to live in Mexico for 13 years, so English is like my second language, and I needed to figure out formats and how to write in APA and MLA and just become more more comfortable with it.
That's great. And all those, and it's just like somebody already said, you don't have to be struggling to go use these resources. It'll get you from a B to a B plus or whatever. And when Alexia went to the writing center, they didn't just help her with the assignment she had, they taught her the skills so that every time she writes after that, she'll be able to do that. So we're on to our final question, and panelists, what's one final piece of advice you have for these West Aurora High School students? I'm going to limit you to one sentence. So we're going to test your grammar knowledge as well. So one final piece of advice in one sentence that you have for these high school students, being mindful that they are in high school. So I'm not sure, these are juniors and seniors, so they're closer to college, but just one sentence, final piece of advice. And we'll start with Christian and then go to Alexia.
Don't be afraid to change your major if you feel uncomfortable, and you want to do that.
It's very common to change your major, and you certainly don't need to know what you want to do now. So great advice. Alexia.
Make sure to reach to your professors because they will definitely help you.
Great. Ureli.
Step outside of your comfort zone.
Francisco.
Don't be afraid of not feeling like you belong, because if you're there, you belong.
And Stefania.
I think it's very important to be open-minded and unafraid of opportunities that come your way, even if you think it's not important at the time.
And Melanie.
Apply for as many scholarships as you can. Anything that you qualify for, just apply for it. You'll thank yourself later.
Great advice. And I'm sure Mrs. Fowler and all your guidance counselor staff can help you find all of those. And I wanted to just take a minute here because we have, this is so great that we have all West Aurora High School alums on this panel. And we do have Melanie, Estefania, Christian, and Ureli, who will walk across the graduation stage on May 8th and 9th. We're having extra graduation, so May 8th and 9th this year. So I just want to I hope that as you're doing this panel today, you can reflect on you are a college success expert. You've navigated all these hurdles. You've grown so much during your time. And Francisco and Alexia, you're right behind them on that. But I wanted to take a minute so that this panel can recognize you and congratulate you. And it's just what Mrs. Fowler and all the teachers at West Aurora knew you were capable of. And they're happy to see you at this point. So congratulations to all the seniors. And I'll have Ureli, do you have a piece of paper so you can write down a number between 1 and 100? Do you have one? Okay, good. Write down a number because we need the high schoolers on the call to put a number in the chat between any number between 0 and 100. Try to read Ureli's mind as you're doing it. And whoever is closest will get a $25 Amazon gift card. And as she's doing that, I'll say, I heard Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor speak 2 years ago, and she talked about her advice to everyone was find mentors and listen to their advice the first time they tell you something. So she said she would not have gotten through college. She was first gen. She said she had a lot of trouble with her writing, but she said no mentor ever had to tell me the same thing twice. I listened to it, I soaked it in, kind of like what Christian said about read that syllabus, be mindful and respectful of everybody's time. So, okay, so let's see, did we get very many? Go ahead and put in the chat. I don't see any guesses in there yet. So your chances are good, high school students. If you want to put a number between 0 and 100 in the chat. Do they have access to the chat? Yes.
I see 56.
Maybe I'm not seeing it.
I see one number of 56.
Okay, well, they have, okay, students, anybody else on the call that wants to use the chat, you have 3 seconds to do it, and then we'll get Ureli's number. I don't know, but I'm not, do you see?
I see one number, and that's Evelyn Estrada. Ureli,
Okay.
what was your number?
Go ahead, Ureli, you can hold up your number. Or...
I don't know if you can see it because it was a 52.
Wow, Evelyn, good job. So I will get your contact information from Mrs. Fowler, and then I will send out the card to you. And if you have any trouble, Mrs. Fowler will let me know about that. But if any of you, if you're like me, for the high school people on the call, you'll think of your questions after we get off this call. And so Mrs. Fowler can easily put you in touch with any of these students. I think the students would be happy for me to give out their North Central email addresses if any of you had any questions. So we would be happy to do that. So again, the topic was successful students ask for help. And so if you think of a question tonight or tomorrow or next week, ask Mrs. Fowler if she can reach out on your behalf, and we'll get you connected to these students. So thank you for having us today, Mrs. Fowler.
Absolutely. On behalf of the College and Career Readiness team, I'm Sue Fowler, College and Career Coordinator, and with me is Ryan Gapbutton, counselor in Tradition House, as well as the scholarship coordinator. It was so awesome to see you guys, and congratulations, seniors. You're right there. Melanie, I feel like it was yesterday when you were sitting in the College and Career Center. Thank you guys very much. Such valuable, honest, sincere information. I loved the message of you do belong. Francisco, I think you shared that. Well, you all shared that. And just super proud of you guys. And this is going to be such valuable information that we will continue to share with our students.
Thank you very much. If you want to stop you can keep the recording going if you want, but I'd like to get a picture of the panelists with you, Mrs. Fowler, the West Aurora alum panelists.
You got it. I think Mr. Gapbutton had one thing to add.
Oh yeah, definitely. I first wanted to thank everybody on this call, especially the alums here. It's great to hear and see you. I know that I wasn't your counselor, but on behalf of the counseling aspect of our college and career readiness curriculum and initiative, we are really thankful that you are giving your time back to serve and help our students. I myself am a first generation student, and so this is very near and dear to my heart, because when I was trying to go to college, I had to do everything on my own. And, I think what resonated with me was that whole imposter syndrome. Never really put it in that context, but it definitely resonated with me because I didn't ever feel like I fit in. And I think it's important for all of us to remember, those of you who are on the call as alums, as well as those of you who are watching as first generation, the very fact that you are doing things on your own and stepping up and self-advocating, that is your advantage. I find that that is the one character trait most first generation students seem to have, is that they're strong self-advocates. So kudos to all of you who are on the call, as well as those who are watching and wanting to just move ahead and advocate for yourself. So as counselors, we invite you to seek any opportunity you can have to meet with us and discuss anything that might be going through your mind while you're in high school. And thank you very much.